It's the last weekend of the month of July.
Hard
And
to believe.
yes, and climatologically, we're at the peak of the summer season as far as temperatures are concerned. In another week or so, the downhill descent begins. So let's celebrate the last weekend of the month of July by spending our time together right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Use that coupon code.
Summer 2024. Before you know it, it's going to be fall or autumn, and we're going to have to change the password again. But it's
Yes.
summer 2024.
And if you do, you will get.
10% off.
So the dry air arrived early enough that there was no shower. For the most part, there were no showers or downpours today. I noticed that there were a fair amount of clouds for a good part of the day, so I guess that would be make it indifferent. I know you like to use that uh, 399 word, indifferent. But we've got some pretty nice weather to finish off uh, the day, our Friday, and to finish off the week, and to take us through the weekend.
And it looks like it's going to be a very nice weekend. It looks like, in fact, the weekend overall will be, well, first of all, the best of the days will be probably tomorrow. And then we'll get into Saturday, which won't be quite as nice, but still, very, very nice for outdoor activities. And then on Sunday, maybe a few thin high clouds and also a little bit more humid. But it looks like, Joe, temperatures are going to be mostly in the middle 80s for a high, maybe a few upper 80s. Um, the humidity will be much lower, lower dew points, and looks like a very nice way to finish out the month of July.
Yeah, no rain in the forecast, which is great. I think must be the fourth day in a row that I didn't get out of the 70s. I mean, it's been really, doesn't get that cool at night, just gets down into the mid and upper 60s, but has not broken 80 degrees all week. And I had some rain last night. I didn't check to see how much, but uh, going into yesterday, coming out of yesterday, I had over just about 7.5 inches for the month, which all has come really in the last 7 or 8 days. We're looking good. There's rain across the southeast and parts of the Gulf states and back through Texas, and that's going to keep going on. And also, by the way, it doesn't look to me like it's going to get all that hot next week in the east. Uh, uh, because Monday, yeah, I mean probably get up close to 90, but after that, you've got potentially some upper troughs and weather systems and clouds and maybe chances for showers and storms down the road. So I'm not really all that, we weren't really pushing, the idea that it was going to be anything extreme anyway. But I'm starting to think that maybe 90 might be a tough sell onto some of the days for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week.
Well, maybe perhaps the extreme heat or excessive heat will hold off until late next week into the following week.
No, that's
But
possible.
yeah, certainly. Or as Muskie used to say on Deputy Dog, it's possible, it's possible.
Yes, it's
I'm
possible.
really showing my age. yeah.
Uh, yes, you are. Uh, just a second. I just want to make sure the share is turned on in case you feel inspired. By the way, can you find that Canadian wildfire map because they got that big fire going on in Alberta province? And thought maybe we can glean something from it. Tried to pulled up the Canadian satellite loop, but there's a weather system going through there today, so you can't really see the the fire on the satellite. So if you could find that, that would be terrific.
I'm going to look right now.
All right, while you're doing that, I'm going to say hi to everybody on the chat board. Hi, everybody on the chat board. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And for those of you who are not on the chat board, but you are lurking in the background, We welcome you as well. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. and the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around. And of course, if there is, and we're going to add a show or two, we always let you know ahead of time. Make sure you turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And be sure you hit the like button if you like the show, because we like it when you hit the like button. So I see you found it.
Yeah, I found it's always been in my favorites um, folder, and you can see. But it according to this map and what you're seeing right now takes us right on through the next couple of days, next 48 hours. And while it looks like there's going to be some um, smoke coming on down from the north, you could see that there. Um, and also there's some smoke out over the western Great Lakes. Here we go. Big swath of smoky weather over northern New York State and northern New England. By the time it reaches us, it kind of falls apart. And really, in the immediate New York City metropolitan area, it doesn't look like there's going to be all that much to be concerned about um, over the next couple of days. However, there's lots of smoke. I want to back off a little bit here. Whoops. Come on. What am I doing? Boom, 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 boom. All right. So it looks like all of Western Canada is under smoky conditions. And as you can see, look at all the fires that are occurring out over Western Canada and also over portions of Alberta, Canada, southern Alberta, affecting portions of the Pacific Northwest. So if you're planning to go on a vacation up to anywhere to the west of, let's say, Manitoba, into the prairie provinces of Canada, and look at the way the smoke is showing up, Joe. It seems to be like moving almost like a low pressure system,
Yeah,
the spinning around in a counterclockwise fashion. And again, that's where all the smoke is. And again, some of the outer extremities of the smoke stretching to the east and southeast and trying to get into the northeastern states with some success. But, really, by the time it gets to us here in the New York metropolitan area, there really isn't all that much to write home about.
yeah. I think this is it. Give me 1 second here to load this up. So I have. It's a little hard to see, but this is one of the choices on the goes east is the fire imagery. So you mentioned about that cyclonic turning. It shows up very well here on this loop. If you look up in west central Canada, so yeah, it's just spiraling along and moving on its way to the northeast. There's actually a little bit of smoky conditions in parts of the southeast, if I'm looking at this correctly. If I like these satellites they have.
Isn't it amazing what you can do now with? I remember how excited we all were when the first uh, series of GOES satellites were put up into orbit back in the 70s. And oh, look at that. You can actually see how well defined the clouds are and even have an infrared filter so you can see what's happening at night or whatever. But now these GOES satellites do everything except, make and pour your morning coffee.
Yep. No, very impressive indeed. All right, let's back up and look at what's going on watches and warnings wise across the United States because it's still fairly quiet in the eastern half with two notable exceptions. We've got a number of flash flood watches up for central and eastern North Carolina and half of South Carolina. All flash flood watches, also some flood advisories are up as well. We also have flash flood watches along the coastal bend of Texas as some heavy rains continue although the watches are now done in the counties near the Louisiana border and also for the southwestern parishes of Louisiana. And in the plains, we have heat advisories, excessive heat warnings, and somewhere in there is also a severe thunderstorm watch, which is up at the moment in the great state of Montana. So let's go back to the continental U.S. loop here. and I always like to use the ones with the lightning because it looks impressive at least. Um, a lot of lightning strikes tonight in coastal uh, in southern Georgia and in parts of South Carolina and along the Florida Panhandle, but they seem to be waning. Not much going on in the Northeast. And you can see the cloud lines kind of pushed almost to the coast now as that dry air over the Great Lakes moves in. And we've got these storms again moving anticyclonically, uh, in other words, clockwise, moving from north to south in Colorado into New Mexico, uh, east to west in from New Mexico into Arizona, and then south to north in Nevada and on up into Idaho and Montana. And we see some lightning strikes up there in Montana, which is where we've got some thunderstorms, and you see where the radar is busy along the coast of North and South Carolina. There you go, with some heavy downpours down to northeast Florida, then back westward some storms in parts of Georgia and interior South Carolina. We've got some rain and a few heavier downpours from southern Tennessee across northern Mississippi, back into eastern Arkansas, the northern part of Louisiana, and along parts of the coastal bend of Texas. And then here's that area of thunderstorms up in Montana and even down into parts of Idaho and Nevada, where we've got some boomers there, and flash flood warnings up in a few counties in northeast Arizona, and a scattering of severe thunderstorm warnings in the southern part of the state, Joe. The Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk there in southern Arizona. It has also a marginal risk from Nevada and Utah northeast into Montana, with two small areas of slight risk included inside that marginal risk. And the blue box in Montana is your severe thunderstorm watch. And in the east, we've got a small area of marginal risk in coastal North Carolina, and they had a small area in northeastern Virginia over into Maryland, although the radar is not really showing very much there. And as far as the next couple of days, really not much. Nothing in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states, the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, no thunderstorms. You see general thunderstorm activity across much of the south, marginal risks in northwest Minnesota and northeast North Dakota, western South Dakota into Wyoming and southeast Montana, also in uh, northwest Utah and northeast Nevada and in southern Arizona. And then when we take a look at Sunday, again, nothing in the northeast, northern mid Atlantic states to the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, marginal risk indicated in the Dakotas, back to western Nebraska, and then northeastward into northwestern Minnesota. So the world of severe weather has indeed calmed down, which is nice. And now when we start getting into August, Joe, I always thought that the character of thunderstorms tends to change in August and going into September, and they become more big rain producers than anything else, particularly in the Northeast and in the Mid Atlantic states.
May have something to do also with the duration of daylight. Quite a few people on the chat board making mention of the fact that you've already beginning to notice or take note of the fact that the mornings are now getting a bit darker than they were just a few weeks ago, and the evenings too are starting to get a little darker. The sun is not up as long into the evening hours as it was a few weeks ago. Actually, from the 21st of May through about the 21st of July, during that 2 month period, that's when you have the brightest time of the year in the month surrounding the summer solstice. But now that we're past July 21st, we're up to July 25th now, you're going to start noticing with more evidence of the fact that the days are actually beginning to get shorter and the duration of daylight getting shorter. You will begin to notice more and more that, well, for example, right around the 4th of July, you have to wait until about 8:30 for the sun to go down. And the last date, I think somebody put that up on the chat board already, that you'll have the sun setting, after 8 o'clock. the last date will be August the 9th. And once you get, beyond that, you really are going to start noticing the shortening of the days, the evenings getting darker, the mornings already getting darker too. Somebody noted on the chat board that when he left for work, or when he leaves for work, usually at 4:45 in the morning to take the bus. Some weeks ago, you can notice that it was twilight. The sky was getting noticeably brighter in advance of the early sunrises. Now, he said when he gets up and takes the bus at 4:45, it's still dark for the most part. So, yeah, slowly but surely, things are changing. The days are getting shorter, and I still remember Yogi Berra, the great baseball sage, and of course there are a lot of yogiisms out there. And toward the end of his career, Yogi would not only play for the Yankees at catcher, but he would be out in left field. The left field would be easier on the knees, so to speak. He didn't have to crouch for a whole 8 or 9 innings. And when they asked him how he liked playing left field, he said it wasn't too bad, except toward the end of the as we got toward the end of the season, I noticed that the shadows were getting longer in August and September earlier, and that, of course, was due again to the shortening of the length of daylight. And he said, as only Yogi could, he said, it's getting late early out there in
Yeah,
left.
exactly. Oh God, amazing, isn't
I
it?
agree with you about the thunderstorms too, because again, when the sun is near its highest point in the sky, and you go those, and now we're passing the hottest part of the year. We're leaving that behind us, and um, with that, the extra solar incidents, so to speak, um, as the temperatures begin to slowly cool, the threat of really tremendous thunderstorm activity still is out there, but the probabilities are not as high as they were, let's say, even just a few weeks ago. And as we progress into August, and especially on to September and October, you'll begin to see again maybe more of a regular thunderstorm pattern, and the what storms we do see more likely to produce, as you pointed out, Joe, more likely to produce heavy rain as opposed to the strong wind gusts, the possibility of tornadoes, and even dangerous hail.
Yeah,
So things are changing out there.
yeah, little by little. And speaking of rain, well, if WPC has its way, and they often do have their way, we're seeing not much over the next 7 days, Joe. They've got a tenth of an inch or less from Maine down into southeast Virginia. Now, if you go inland, you don't have to go too far inland, and you start to get into the quarter to the half and a half to three quarters, back through Pennsylvania, and then well up into upstate New York, north central New York, as well as western New York. But along the coastal plain from Maine down to Virginia, and even into portions of northeast North Carolina, hardly any rain is forecast to fall over the next 7 days. Ample rain along the immediate coast, and we're seeing evidence of that now from North Carolina down through much of Florida. We're talking about several inches in the next 7 days, and also along the immediate Gulf Coast, and as well as areas pushing up through Alabama, Tennessee, northern Georgia, western North Carolina, into West Virginia, and in Kentucky. We're looking at 1.5 to as much as 2 to 3 inches in some places. Not a whole lot in the southern and central plains, a little bit more in the northern plains and going into the western lakes, up to several additional inches for the coastal bend of Texas. And then we've got the usual nonsense that's going on in the southwest with those thunderstorms that are forming around the big upper high that is out there. And as far as flash flooding is concerned, tonight into Saturday morning, we have a slight risk in North and South Carolina and eastern Georgia. We have a slight risk in much of Mississippi, central Mississippi, much of Louisiana, except the southeast, and going into East Texas. And there's a moderate risk, which has been, which extends from southwest Louisiana down to just about to Corpus Christi, but not quite. But that's been pared down a bit by the fact that they took the flash flood watches out down for southeast Texas and for southwest Louisiana, mainly east of Houston. The flash flood watches have been taken down, and of course we've got marginal risks in the southwest for those thunderstorms that are out there with some localized flash flooding going on. And I mean, it's really all about this, this cold front. Let me just make sure I got the latest run of the GFS, which I do not have. Now I do. Um, and let's roll it back so we can start from tonight as the front has pushed through. We've got this nice high building in from the lakes to the east. The air is not cold air, is not cool air. It's warmer actually behind it than ahead of it because of the fact that you're going to have more in the way of sunshine. But dew point relief, yeah, I've been pretty much saying it's going to be reasonably comfortable right through Sunday, even though the dew points come up a little bit on Sunday. It's not going back to, those ridiculous dew points in the 70s, which is, really oppressive. So it's nice weather through Sunday, and then, there's still all this southern moisture running around across the southeast, the deep south, and back through Texas. But there's no mechanism to really bring it northward. And I'm just looking here through Monday. The GFS wants to fire up some showers and storms Monday evening. There's some kind of little ocean system that sort of backs up to the north. I don't know how it figures out that there's some sort of
How
upper
many, how many
trough.
people? How many people on not Facebook but on social media will look at that and say, "Oh, we got to watch that. That could change into a tropical cyclone."
Yeah, yeah, that's that cold upper low that's off the southeast, well off the southeast coast, or
Right.
some semblance of it anyway. And there's a wave that forms on the old cold front, so that just kind of rotates up and around. So I suppose we should watch to make sure that that doesn't create a problem. And I'm thinking, I didn't look at the European today, but my guess is it probably doesn't have it. It does have chances for showers and storms scattered around on Tuesday and again on Wednesday. But WPC, it doesn't seem to be very impressed by all this. And then it doesn't really do very much until sometime next weekend, maybe, when there's some kind of weather front that's going on through. So, I mean, it's a rather uneventful pattern overall. I guess the only big highlight in the United States is going to be the heat in the plains. That's going to be a bigger deal. And if I'll bring up, just to show you the 2 meter temperatures here, starting with let's go to tomorrow. I mean, there's 90s there. That's no big shakes. We've got 90s on Saturday. Starting to see a few spots push 100 on Sunday in Kansas and Oklahoma. And then Monday, you've got some low 100s in Kansas and Oklahoma. And then Tuesday of next week, it blossoms out up into the Dakotas. And we've got a few places where it's between 105 and 110 in Kansas and Oklahoma. And then it goes on to Wednesday and Thursday. It starts to diminish a little. Well, no, I'm sorry. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, yeah, Saturday. So it looks like it's a long duration heat for the plains, and then eventually even moving into the west, throughout California, you start to see a blossoming area of 100 plus highs, and not just in the desert areas, but going all the way up and up into Washington State and Oregon and Idaho and all the rest of it. So no tropics to worry about. Those are quiet. Just want to check real quick if anything is going on in the Pacific. Not that there'll be a fish storm anyway. So we've got no tropical cyclone development in the Atlantic for the next 7 days. The European, by the way, Joe, quickly made mincemeat of that. Oh, look, we got tropical storm Bud in the Pacific. Where did that come from? 6 advisories. Where have I been? It wasn't there last night. Tropical storm Bud. Um, it's at 18.4 and 107.0, moving west at 12 knots. And what does the advisory say? I love reading the advisories because for the Pacific, because yeah, here we go. So 50 knots now. It's already at peak strength, and goes westward or even slightly south of due west, and it's forecast to weaken and dissipate over the weekend. By 48 hours, Joe, It's a post-tropical remnant low.
The European, by the way, still has that system in the southeast for right around August 3rd, 4th, off of the Florida coast. The GFS does not have it, but the European still is.
Oh, there it is. It's back to the bowling alley. Yeah, the
Yeah,
zero Z run, the zero Z run, um, it didn't have the low, but it did have an area of lower than normal pressures and an area of crease of rain, but it moved it across the islands and into the Northwest Caribbean. But it didn't really do anything with it. This one has gone back to what the day run did yesterday, which is to close off a low, and it has some kind of tropical system there, moving up along the Florida East Coast. But it stands alone,
Did you
right?
know? Did you know? This is a fun fact. Did you know that if you spend one day on every island in Florida, it will take you 12 years and 4 months to complete them all? I did
Really?
not.
Well,
Florida,
I have
Florida,
no intent. I have no intention of starting that now.
Florida has 4,510 islands. I did not know that. So,
Wow.
fun fact of the day.
Oh, very good. All right. Let's do Briller Jeopardy, shall we?
Surely, do you have it or do I have it?
I think I have it. Um, Hold on. Just give me a
But you must,
moment
because the
here.
other night we had like you got all 20 of them chronologically, all the presidents.
Okay. Yes, that's right. That was the other night. That was impressive,
I was
if I may say so myself.
yes.
We're back to doing weather stuff. So
Okay.
now we're doing average high temperatures in the month of July for the following cities, Joe. Starting with Hotlanta
Atlanta, the average high temperature in July.
in July.
In July, how does 89 sound?
Wow. Very, very, very close. Lou Arizio got it right off the bat, Joe. 90 degrees.
This is for you, Lou.
All
Great.
right. Uh, yeah, that's the average. It is the average high. It's only at well, New York City's average high in July is what, 86? So it's only 4 degrees higher. And I can tell you, being up here in the mountains, that my average high is at least 5 degrees lower than that.
Well, that's
Um,
what 2,200 feet will do.
right. Well, Boston. Boston.
Boston, I will say for Boston, I will say 80.
Close. It's a close guess. It's a good guess. It's an intelligent guess. It's an incorrect guess, but it's a guess. And Lou Aricio and Michael McGuire nailing this one at 82. 82. And Norm Roberts and Charlie P. Next one is Buffalo, Joe. Buffalo.
Okay, well, Buffalo, I would go with I'll say 81.
Oh, you're shaving it all these so close. Christina Pedia and Maggie P got this one, Joe, at 80.
Wow.
80. All right, Austin, Texas. Austin. Austin.
Austin.
Austin. Austin. Austin. Austin, Texas.
I'll say for Austin, I will say 92.
You're in the right direction. You're a bit too low. Patrick Darcy is very close with his 98. And Craig Carlberg is very close with, and Michael McGuire, they're both very close with their 96, which means, Joe,
97.
97.
Good Lord.
97.
How do people live in a place where the average afternoon high temperature in July is 97?
Yeah, well, that's tough. Uh, Chicago.
Chicago. Chicago. I will say 83.
83. Um, it's close. It's close. Um, Lou
Not
Arizio, Lou Arizio, you're on a hot streak today. Frank R. Also on a hot streak. 85. Chuck Cardillo.
wow.
85 for the is Chicago. And the bonus tonight, the average high temperature in Death Valley in July.
Death Valley. How how about 120?
Believe it or not, that's too high.
Really?
Yeah, it's too high. Rich Rothmansky uh, got it at 116.
Wow.
Right. 116. And it's of course temperatures are always lower at the shore with the sea breeze. There's a lot of sand in that sea breeze. All right, we're
The George Carlin bit, talking about the contestants on Divorce Game. And he says of the husband, he says, he's a pearl diver from Yuma and been out of work for some time now. His hobbies
any
are his hobbies are lighting fires and helping the poor.
yeah. Any plans for the weekend?
No, not really. It looks like it's going to be a very nice weekend, so we'll see.
All right. Yeah, I don't have much going on either. Okay. The Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast tonight brought to you by, as it is every night, Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. Use the coupon code.
Summer 2024,
If you do, you will get.
10% off.
And all our regulars on the chat board tonight have a terrific weekend. And we'll be back Sunday night at 7:35.
We'll be here.
Night, night.